SEO has changed more in the last year than probably any other year I can remember in 14 years in the industry. From AI, ChatGPT, large language models, Google's failed updates and Reddit, the future's quite uncertain for young talent entering the industry. That's why I sat down with 3 Manchester-based SEOs to chat about just that.
Hey there, and welcome to this special event where we're going to talk about how to future-proof your career. And today we've got a fantastic bunch of guests with us, and I'm going to let everybody introduce themselves. So starting with JP, go on, tell us all about yourself and why people should be listening to you.
Hey, I'm JP. I am Senior SEO Manager from the future, and you should listen to me because I say interesting things sometimes. And it's been an interesting journey in my SEO career.
Hi guys, I'm Charlie Whitworth of Whitworth SEO, experienced agency guy, head of SEO Misguided, and now running my own consultancy in Ancoats and calling people out on Twitter quite a lot.
My name's Josh Peacock, so I'm the CEO and co-founder at SEO for Hire. SEO for Hire is a recruitment company that specializes solely in the SEO space. We work with companies all over the world, from global startups to Fortune 500 companies. We chat with thousands of SEOs a year and hundreds of agencies a year. So hopefully we can give our 2 cents on what way to future-proof your SEO career. But Andy Holland, who are you?
Hey, well, I'm going to be asking the questions. So for those who don't know me, I'm Andrew Holland. I am the Director of SEO at JBH, and we're a digital PR and SEO agency based in Manchester and London. I just want to talk for a second about why we're doing this, is because each of us has a very unique background in SEO. So you've got JP, who's doing really well for himself and his role. He's at a big agency, has worked in a variety of different careers over his life. Charlie's got this massive background, probably one of the most experienced SEOs in the UK. Josh knows everything there is to know about SEO interviews and recruitment. His agency is thriving in both SEO and digital PR, so he's got full of knowledge about how to get past the interview stage and how to get interviews. We're going to tap into it. And I've ran my own agency, worked for 2 7-figure agencies as well. So we know quite a bit, but more so what we want to do is put together something that's going to help you to future-proof your career in SEO in what are probably the most uncertain times in the industry. So what we're going to do is I'm going to ask the gentleman here a range of questions, and we're just going to go and flow with it between ourselves. And I think this will be one of the most knowledge-filled events that you could possibly listen to if you want a long career in SEO. And it might not be for you after listening to this, but we hope you'll find this of value anyway. So I've got a load of questions. Let's see how we go with them, okay? So, and I'm going to ask the first one to JP. Okay, because you're in my line of sight. So what key skills and knowledge areas do you consider essential for someone looking to build a successful career in SEO?
Yeah, I'll try to keep it as advice-focused as possible. I think it falls into 2 camps. So I think you got your soft skills and your hard skills. And obviously, Josh, you'll know a lot about this, but I think when it comes to the hard skills, it's pretty much the SEO stuff. So you kind of want to make sure that you're covered on your bases, so build like a wide skill set. So you want to know about content. If you want to know about content, you need to know about semantics, you need to know about how search engines parse information, basically how they are programmed to analyze that data and the algorithms that like required to analyze that content, things they look for, TF-IDF analysis and all that type of stuff. Then you're looking at links, and link mechanics is very complex. I think there's not a lot of people that really document it and do it well. Like the guys at Link Research Tools, that's like the holy grail of like where we could go with links. But you want to know how they work, when to build the right links, that sort of thing. And then with technical is a whole kettle of fish. So you're going into how the internet works, how websites work, etc. So other than the hard skills and the things you need to know on the technical side, then it's the soft skills. How do you lead a team? How do you rally a team? And most importantly, when you get to higher levels, how do you communicate the value of SEO so that you can get stakeholder buy-in? Because depending on the environment you work in, you might be working where you're in like a media agency and you're working with different teams. You're working with paid teams, you're working with social teams. And although we live in this world where we're always exposed to SEO, and we know the value intrinsically because we see it all the time, you have to get the buy-in from other stakeholders, your boss, managers. And so I think if you can ride those 2 parallels really well and invest in those, it's good for you. But to be honest, later on down the line, it's the soft skills that will count in spades. You know, you can always teach technical skills, but soft skills are very, very important.
Fantastic answer. Okay, so that's the what. I'm going to switch over here to Charlie, the one of the most experienced SEOs in the UK, and I'm going to ask you, okay, how do you do that then? So he's given us this laundry list of things that you've got to learn: links, soft skills, technical stuff. I mean, crikey, already I'd be wanting leave out the door if this was my job interview. You know, so tell me, how does somebody let's say they're at 3 points in their career. You've got person one who's just started as an exec. You've got somebody who's perhaps an account manager, and you've got somebody who's moving into that director of SEO role.
Yeah.
How are they going to do this? Get the skills that the JP's talking about?
Yeah, I think it's going to connect very much with what JP said. I think my biggest kind of lesson that I try to give to young SEOs is not trying to do too much straight away. There's loads of really clever people out there on X and online, and amazing SEOs who have been doing it for 20, 25 years, and it can be really easy to get imposter syndrome and get overwhelmed and be like, well, I've got to be as good as this person. But if you're just getting into SEO, right, you need to, as JP just said, you can teach the technical skills, but it's about how you can stay engaged and motivated in the career without struggling with imposter syndrome or feeling like you've got to search for the silver bullets or what amazing technique can I take to my boss to go and impress them. No, it's like doing proper SEO is I wouldn't say it's basic, but there's a blueprint for good SEO, and you'll learn some techniques that will get you really good results, but don't be searching for those silver bullets. So on the lower level, I'd say on entry level SEOs, just learn off the best, get experience of doing campaigns, learn from your mistakes, learn what works, but don't be trying to aspire to these people who have been around for decades, because they have been around for decades without you just starting. And then the soft skills, as JP said, as you go up towards our direct levels, the technical skills are a given, right? You've been around, you've learned your skill, and then it's about approachability, cutting down the jargon for clients, those kind of things, making sure that proposals and reporting is what they need on a case-by-case basis or a client-by-client basis. And something I've always said is like, there's no one-size-fits-all to a campaign. You need to learn about that client, their KPIs, their goals. They might be after just sessions, they might be after revenue. You've got to be adaptable for that. So as you go higher up the level towards that more senior level, that's where you've got to start thinking a bit more pragmatically about that. So yeah, that's essentially my advice really. When you're learning your trade, not trying to think you've got to impress every single day with these like groundbreaking new tactics. Just do good SEO. And then as you get more senior and get up the ladder, just working with clients more closely and at best conveying the work you're doing in the best way. Because too much jargon for clients can put them off. Not enough jargon for technical clients who want to get stuck in can make it look like you're not doing enough. So you need to learn from experience about how to connect with those people properly. So
that was a very Yoda answer.
Yoda.
Yeah. I'm going to have to pivot a little bit here, because I'm going to turn this next question to Josh, because we talked about the what, we talked about the how. Okay, these are the skills. So let's talk about the employer for a second. The unsung hero of the SEO industry, the one that gives us the jobs, that allows us to live our lives the way we do. Okay, so I'm going to say we've got two versions that have gone on there. Great, we've got the what, the how. Okay, so I'm going to say to you, what key skills and knowledge areas do employers consider essential when they're hiring SEOs? And I think you probably, if you can frame that into the that area of starter, middle, towards the end of the career, higher up career, because you recruit across the full spectrum. So what are the employers looking in those various roles?
So I think if you're a beginner and an employer's looking at you, I think the most important thing for them is kind of what JP said, is actually soft skills, because they're going to have the people that are going to be able to mentor you, they're going to have the training, they're going to have the facilities to help you grow, but they want somebody that's passionate about the industry, somebody that's not afraid to learn, somebody that wants to test, and somebody that's basically, I like to think of like a dog wagging their tail. They're coming in and they kind of just want to be taught the right way. But then once you move up to more mid to senior level, it's a lot more important about what way can you lead the team, what way can you communicate, and not just to C-suite executives or communication within actual strategy sessions, but more about how do you help somebody that's not maybe getting a hold of a skill the right way, how do you teach somebody up that way. And again, that's really talked about when you talk about to somebody, how have they led the team, has there been any problems that they've been facing, how did they overcome that. Another big thing that our clients are looking for is somebody that, and again, this kind of goes into like an entrepreneurial spirit of somebody that's not afraid to test and test and test, fail and keep on testing, And I think the beautiful thing about this is that, and again, it kind of ties into the more you learn about SEO, the best way to do that is by starting your own side projects and having something that you can test your own knowledge on. And like we talk about this all the time, is that you can't go and test on a client's work, somebody that's paying for you. You can't do that because you might end up ruining something. But if you're an SEO and you've got your own side projects, you can test, you can fail on your own accord, bring those lessons in, and then bring it into either the company or wherever you are. So a lot of our clients are looking for somebody that's not scared to test and fail and embrace those failures. Kevin Indig, possibly one of the best SEOs in the world, we had him on the podcast recently, he has a failure log where he writes down his failures every day, and there could be 5 of them, and he writes down the reasons to what he should learn from them, and then every week he'll go back and just read through them, which I think it's got a lot of power in that. And the other thing then as well is the communication that we already touched on, is the communication of being able to leave the technical jargon for your SEO friends in the SEO events where people actually understand what you're talking about. But when you're chatting to business owners and C-suite executives, you need to be able to talk in a way that is more an holistic approach. And Eli Schwartz had we had him on the podcast, and he talked about how he was at a company where the business owner just did not want anything to do with SEO. But he knew that the business owner was a big fan of basketball. So he came in one day and did a presentation to everybody, and it was just a GIF of a basketball player passing the ball to another player and then dunking it or scoring it or whatever it's called. And he just had it on repeat, and he kind of just sat back and he let everybody watch. And he goes, this is what SEO is. It's the assist to all the other channels that help it go in. And then the business owner kind of got it, loved it, and that was that. So I think finding different ways of being able to storytell, and for anything in life, like anything in life, being able to storytell and communicate will get you so much further. And just the last point, I know I'm kind of rambling, but the last point on that as well is that an employer could come to us and be like, right, we want somebody with 10 years of SEO experience, we want them to manage a team, all of this. If you're able to talk about the way that they've story told or pitched or brought a team up when things were rocky, like they could have the same experience and the other one didn't do that, and they'll get the higher salary or they'll get the role just because of that. And again, I think that's what we're finding is a lot of employers are finding they want to hire for soft skills because hard skills are teachable. Soft skills, I think, are a lot more harder to teach.
Yeah.
That was a nice little ending. I can see that being a little segment in itself there. Okay, so I think brilliant, by the way, guys. So I'm going to sort of take what you just said here and translate it all for the viewers at home. I'm joking, but what I think that's come out of that and come out of listening to all of you, there are what I would describe are 3 lanes for the skills and the future of SEO. And the first lane is character traits. And that's what you talked about here, determination, that being happy, coming to work with enthusiasm, the ability to face setbacks, the old Rocky Balboa speech, take your hits and keep moving forward. That's how winning in SEO is done. That should be a meme. And the second one is your skills. Now, I think, and listen to yourselves, and you can jump in if you don't agree, but skills and will come and go because we have different tools, different techniques, different algorithm changes. So, the skills is important. So I should say, the hard skills are important, but the adaptability has to come from the character traits. And the final lane, so we've got the first lane is character traits, second lane is the skills, and the final lane is what I think we've touched on a little bit, is commerciality. And how SEO fits into the wider spectrum, and having those character traits to understand and explain that to others. And when I say character traits, is probably we need something that goes around them, and I think that's probably soft skills. So you've got your 3 lanes, you've got your character traits, your skills, your commerciality, and then your soft skills go around all of those, because unless you've got the ability, one, to even transcend skills down to other people, you won't be able to teach other people, and then you'll just be somebody who gets taught and takes on your skills and uses them. You can't pass them down. You're not going to understand how to speak to the executives below you, above you, anything else in the position. So I think from people wanting to take something succinct from this, is it's having those 3 lanes with the soft skills around, which is the glue for all that. Would you agree with that, guys?
Yeah,
100%.
I think that adaptability bit is absolutely crucial.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been around for quite a while, as you have, Andy. But if I was still doing the same stuff that worked when I first started, now I'd have been left behind. And there is a lot of people out on social now saying, EAT is nonsense because it's not a ranking factor. There could be young SEOs reading that, and whether you agree with it or not, If you're just looking for ranking factors, then you're looking at this whole thing wrong. So just that adaptability to be able to roll with the algorithm, learn how it's changing, and not be scared to just because something used to work that you've got to move on from it if that's no longer relevant. Like that's a huge thing.
Well, and I think that's a good segue into the next question we've got here. So, okay, this question was originally phrased like this. So, how has the landscape of SEO evolved over the past few years, and what emerging trends do you see as crucial for professionals to stay ahead in their careers? Now, I need to change this. How has the landscape of SEO evolved in the past few days?
Yeah.
Because I think if we say years is I think years is too much of a span now, because we're literally facing some of the weirdest changes that have gone on. And I'm actually going to throw this over to Josh a little bit, because and the reason why I say that is because Josh is speaking to the employers, and the employers are the ones who are on the receiving end. So what things are the employers looking at? What skills are the employers looking at for the trends that are facing SEO at the moment?
Yeah, so it's interesting. We actually, a lot of our employers right now, and this, since the last time we did that JBH event was maybe 2 months ago, it's been a lot more recent to that. So maybe the last 3-4 weeks, the client calls that have been going on, is we had a call recently where somebody was going to set up, it was in the SEO team, but it was basically like an experiment. Like your idea was to go out and test as many things as you can to kind of see where things are going. But again, the last maybe 6 months, kind of since ChatGPT has gone a bit crazy, maybe it's a lot longer than 6 months now. But our employers are looking more for holistic strategies. So yeah, I'd say nearly about a year ago, a lot of our roles would be a tech SEO, somebody content strategy, right? But now it's like nearly all of our roles right now are SEO director, SEO specialist, SEO manager. It's holistic approaches. So I'd say that's the biggest thing that I've noticed.
Do you think that's a little bit because ChatGPT and AI have kind of taken the jobs of what you used to give the
low hanging fruit?
Yeah, I think
which is a shame for. It's a shame. It's also not. I think AI provides solutions, right? It's not going to do SEO for us if you use it properly. It provides solutions, but it's interesting that I think it's probably because the businesses are like, well, there's no point employing an exec because that kind of day-to-day, I hate the term, but kind of grunt work can be done by AI. So let's get a strategist in who knows how to use that tech.
Yeah, it's like remove the barriers for entry. It's like, okay, like our perception of the work to be done has now changed. It's like, oh, AI can take care of all of that. So what's the missing link? It's like, well, it's the strategy, it's the brain behind that operation.
Exactly. I mean, we'll probably get onto AI, but I think essentially it's not seeing it as a threat, but businesses have probably realised, and it's a pragmatic business decision, but I guess it's shifted that employment kind of cycle, hasn't it?
I'm going to push, by the way, folks. So listen, don't think this was going to be an easy question and answer session, and so we're going to push hard because we want to give everyone as much value as possible. So, okay, we've got trends there. That was quite. I mean, no offense to you, Josh, but that's quite an open thing. So you've got a guy sitting at home or a lady sitting at home. They're an SEO executive. They've just started. They're a year into SEO. What should they do? I mean, I'm going to push that to Charlie. What should they do? Josh has just come out there and said people are looking for these holistic skills, but we've got a person here who's an exec who's only starting using tools for the first time, who's walked in an agency perhaps to 20, 21 years of age. What's your advice to them? Are you listening to this?
I'm probably going to be a massive hypocrite to my last answer and say that's where you probably got to show off a bit, because if you have learned how to use these tools properly, the differentiator for you then there will be cool ways to use that and show your employer, right, you know, I've got the knowledge here, but actually I'm using these tools in the right way. Because, yeah, essentially those tools have not made their job obsolete, but it's made the strategy bits of going back right to the start. The soft skills become so much more important, don't they? Because it's your ability then to convey your ability, the ability to convey your ability, you know, to be able to show off, and then essentially the impact that you can have on those campaigns. So you've got to try and take that leap, I suppose, straight from exec to strategist, or what I guess would have traditionally been an SEO manager. So yeah, I mean, as I said before, don't be looking for silver bullets. But in that situation, if your role has become a lot more competitive, then you've got to find ways to differentiate, haven't you? And I think that's where the soft skills come in again.
I'm glad you said that last bit, because I think people, and Josh is going to jump in here, I know he will, because we've talked about this before, is people forget that the job market is competitive. Nobody's out there. They're all, at this moment in time, because of the recession, because of economic challenges faced globally, and that won't always be the same. The job market right now is competitive. So, and I think I'm going to say this, just jumping off the back of what Charlie said, is it no one's got a right to any jobs in SEO. Is that right, Josh?
So it's funny you say that, because obviously I've talked about this to you passionately before, but recently I had a call where somebody, he's got very, very good experience, right? Very good experience, maybe 8-9 years. He's led teams of like 10 plus, and he's been unemployed for I think 8 months now, right? I went on a call with him and we went through a few things. He's been applying for maybe 3 roles a month. He's on about moving to different countries because he can't get employed. And again, I don't think it's a general thing, but I think a lot of people are lazy today. Like, a lot of people are lazy. And the story that I love talking about is that we've got a SaaS client that was looking for a very, very high salary job. And it was an SEO manager. They wanted somebody in-house experience with SaaS experience. Darius, my head of recruitment, put 8 people forward. The one person that got the job didn't have in-house SaaS experience, and what he did is he went above and beyond. He did a mini audit of the site the night before, came on, just asked them in a polite way at the chemistry call, do you mind if I just share my screen 1 minute? Shared my screen, and he just went through about 20 minutes. He was like, look, this isn't an in-depth thing, it's just something that I went last night. He stood out completely, got that job, which I think was like 25k above what he was in his last role. And I think there's so many little marginal gains that you can do to increase your opportunities of employment, whether that be jumping on a webinar that's on by, let's say, Jane's webinar she did recently with Harry Sanders and Kevin Gibbons, right? And then let's say they want to work with Jane. They'd take a little snippet of what Jane said, and then they hit her on a message or an email and be like, oh, I really liked what you said here. Go into events, talking to people. JP, I'm sure you could share, you literally got a job at my event because you came and you talked and you were immersed in the industry and you wanted to build a network. And yeah, I think there's marginal gains that so many people can do that's just like, yeah.
It's proactivity, isn't it? Because to touch on at the start, the technical skills can be taught, and you'd like to think someone who's an SEO has some knowledge of technical skills, but essentially it's implementation, right? It's proactivity, having your own side projects, like you said. If your employer is confident you're going to be able to have those conversations easily and are proactive enough to do things like that, then you're going to be an asset, aren't you?
You want to be creative, yeah. People want to hire a contributor, not a non-tributor, right? So they want to see evidence of that, and the earlier you tease that up and tee it up for yourself, that's just like a taster for them. Like, okay, this person can go above and beyond that.
Okay, I'm glad that's fun enough. You sort of jumped into what I was going to ask you next. Okay, so we've established that it's competitive. We've established that people are lazy out there. We know that. We've established that there are less jobs. And we've established that the employers, the trend in the employers is they want a more holistic SEO. What are the character traits that you think align with, one, competitiveness? I can't even say it properly, but competitiveness. What are those character traits? And those character traits that benefit holistic SEO management or strategies. Because one thing we can't do necessarily is we can upskill ourselves where possible, but we can also work on our character traits. So what are the character traits that you think, JP, people need in this modern world of SEO right now?
To be a good SEO.
Have a career in SEO.
I think because it's changing so often. I like what you said about having soft skills, and that serves as the glue, right? So I think it's like it emanates from the core. And when I want to work with someone or maybe bring someone onto my team, I want to first of all I want to work with someone who's a hard worker. So I want to know that this person has like grit and determination, but that can manifest in several different forms. Like, they can be emotionally hard, like they can take setbacks and come back from that. You know, they're not afraid to pull up their sleeves and get stuff done. I mean, I've worked with people who, you know, would charge much, much more per the hour, but I would much rather hire someone who, you know, is not so like fancy or doesn't have such a big brand, but I know they are just like a rock solid workhorse and they will like do what needs to be done, because SEO is a lot of work, you know. So like, I need someone that can handle it. I need someone that's not can handle that responsibility. So grit, determination. You need to be curious, I think, because if you're not curious, you won't be adaptable. So you always need to ask the question and say, what is that? How can I learn that? Oh, I heard about that thing last month. You know, how is that going to impact our industry? When you're curious and then you have a desire to learn about stuff, that is a winning combination, because it's like you want to know what's happening out in the world and then you want to teach yourself about it. And there's nothing more alluring than a person that takes it upon themselves to learn something and say, I'm going to make this my responsibility to gain this skill set, and then be like, and now I'm going to go out and show the world that I can do this thing. You can't really teach someone to be enterprising like that. So I think those two combinations of I'm going to work hard, I'm going to prove myself, and I'm going to be curious, and I'm going to apply myself, and then look for those gaps and be original and know how to spot an opportunity. Literally, that's all that SEO is. I mean, when you're designing a high-level strategy, if you want to build a moat around your strategy that no other company can copy, like that's literally the mindset you have to have. So that's why I would look for that in a person, because I know they would probably do their job that way.
I think I'm going to jump in and give some advice to anyone listening to this. So an actual proper, like, you know, things that they can do, because we're all unique. Not everybody has that curiosity, and not everybody wants this competition, this to work in a competitive environment. They just want to come to work and get the job done. Now, and I'm going to say this, is that there are ways to be competitive without having a competitive nature. So my advice to people, anyone listening to this or indeed watching this, is to go down and write down what your core strengths are as a characteristic. Okay, what are you kind? Okay, are you determined? Are you investigative? Are you curious? Are you challenging? Are you a hard worker? There'll be about, I wouldn't say go any more than 4 or 5 of your core characteristics, and I'd circle them down on a sheet on the side, and then I would write next to them, and I would list out all the ways of which you can demonstrate that characteristic within your work. So if you're curious, what do? You go looking at client accounts and you make your managers aware, I've noticed this. Or you go and ask questions, you know. Or if you're kind, how can you do that and say, boss, do you need any help with anything? I've just got some spare time. Now, that might be really old-fashioned of me to say that, but if a staff member comes to you and say, look, I've finished all my work, you can have a look at it if you want, or is there anything I can do for you? Now, what that tells me is that person, one's efficient at what they do, but also they're making me aware that they're efficient, and also what they're doing is giving me some work to give them. And that tells me they're keen and hungry and all of those competitive nature. So what I'm sort of saying is that when Josh and ourselves are talking about competitiveness, we're not necessarily saying you have to be on Twitter or X or LinkedIn talking about how you've done X, Y, Z and landed 55 million clients with and just generated X, Y, Z traffic, because we know, as experienced people in the game, everybody's got a part of that. But what I suggest people do is audit their behaviours and characteristics and then go all in on those strengths and look at ways that they can prove them and showcase them. That's not being competitive, that's just you going all in on what you do. But that will lead to you having your superpowers and being more competitive without actually having to be a competitive person, if that makes sense, guys. So,
yeah, that makes sense.
Just on that, because that was really powerful. One thing that me and my business partner Craig, we do every quarter is we do like a mini audit with each other. So we have to list 5 things that we're really bad at and 5 things that we're good at, right? And we like just talk about it. And when we first started doing it, it was like one of the hardest things to do. And when I was listening back to what he had audited on me, like my first thing, one of the biggest things for him was that I'm very black and white. So if I've made up my mind before, it's very hard for me to then be open towards it. But I've tried to learn a lot from it, and yeah, I've learned a lot from it. So doing what you said, or even going to your partner or somebody that you work with very closely every day and being like, do you mind just, what's the 3 things that I could improve on? And just taking that and walking away with it, I think is really powerful.
And like rephrasing like looking at your negatives, as if you're going to call them negatives, or just that's not necessarily your strengths, differently. So I was very defensive, and probably still am, about my work, and like if anyone criticised it. But then I started looking at it differently, and he was like, okay, well, you're going to be defensive, that's the way you are. But the way we're going to look at that is that you're proud of your work. So then you turn that into pride. So you can do that, because I think that exercise can be really powerful. But then sometimes you end up with, if someone gave me 5 things I'm bad at, I'd be beating myself up about them for ages. So
it's interesting you say that. So I heard a Gordon Ramsay quote. And pardon me, I'm going to have a drink of water in a second. But the Gordon Ramsay quote, that it was him saying it, he said he was giving advice to people, and it was one of these Instagram things. He says, when it comes to criticism, take it professionally, not personally.
yeah,
Nice.
It's so hard
And
to do.
I love that. And as soon as I saw that, I wish I'd learned that 20 odd years ago in my own career, because it's very hard to do.
Yeah.
But if we can become more professional in how we take criticism, now that also there is the other side to that people have to be professional how they give criticism.
Yeah, that's the thing.
And it's a two-way approach. But unfortunately, that you can't control how people give you the criticism, but you can be professional how you take it. JP, next question.
Yes, sir.
Can you share some personal experiences or success stories that highlight effective strategies for career growth in SEO? So obviously Josh has mentioned something you've done before. So talk to me about some other things, because I know you've done quite a bit of this. So
Yeah.
tell everyone what's going on and what they can do.
An innate strength of mine is I'm a very intellectually curious person, and I like reading and learning a lot. So, and I also say there's also meta skills on top of that. If I can read twice as fast as the person next to me, I'll learn twice as fast as the person next to me, right? So that's advice I would give. If you're willing to go to that level, learn to read faster, learn to learn faster, learn as much as you can from as many people as you can. If you admire someone, we've had this conversation many times. I think I've asked you, hey, Andy, what are you reading? And that's how you put me on Messy Middle and stuff like that. And see, I sort of admire your ability to synthesize strategies and stuff. So I said, well, I'm going to pay attention to what Andy's learning, right? Because I want to know what Andy knows, right? I want to learn that. So there's that. Learn as much as you can. Learn what you need to do, how to do it, and learn why it adds value. Number 2 is relationship building. This is huge. I didn't mention this last time. Become a human being. If you're working with clients, learn the name of their pets, learn the name of their kids. I had clients that I would call up, and I'd call her up and I'd say, I can't call you this afternoon because I know you're going to pick up little Isabella from school. So I'll call you at 4 because I know you're going to be out at 3. I knew the name of their dog. I knew
You've been reading How to Win and Influence Friends, haven't you?
So, this is...
Classic book.
This is me being a human being and showing another person that I pay attention, right? These are things that will carry you so far in client relationships and things that people don't think about. And another thing I learned from a very great mentor I had was always pay attention to the numbers and remember them as much as you can. So like when someone comes to you and they grill you, never underestimate how checking numbers in Google Analytics for 5 minutes in the morning will become important 2 weeks from now. When your boss comes to you and they say, I noticed this was down. What about that? What about that? And you say, but I knew last week it was like this. So I knew conversion rates were like that. And just showing that you're always paying attention, you're picking up on things, listening to things, and you're just on the ball, basically.
Love that. Okay, Charlie, sorry.
What?
I'm going to give you probably the hardest question
That's fine.
right now. Okay, so this isn't on the list. I've just made this up. It's based on a question on the list. So, because I want to keep you on your toes.
You can only ask questions from the list.
No, that's
then.
not the way it works. I have the power, so I have the deck.
Right.
So, okay. The original question here was talking about how important for SEO professionals it is to have a solid understanding of content marketing. I'm going to rip that question up.
Okay.
Okay. So, right now, the agency and in-house world is a mess. In fact, we're all in a mess.
Yep.
SEO, as the Google algorithms are targeting all kinds of things, and we're being attacked. We're like a punch bag. We're the punch bag, and Google's the boxer, and Mike Tyson's battering us. So, you've got here two sides of the coin, and you've got the content side of SEO,
Yeah.
and you've got like the technical link side of SEO. I'm going to bring technical and links into one for now. So content, traditionally, it was the thing which was very expensive.
Yeah.
Content written was expensive. We have people who are base their entire careers on being writers. We have content agencies. And then all of a sudden now comes along this little friend called generative AI. And generative AI, what does it do? I mean, first of all, it helps you write things. But SEOs can't handle that. They can't cope with it just helping.
No.
We want it to do it for us. And some creative individuals go out there and get these tools, and where you can create 2,000, 3,000 words with a push of a button, and you don't even have to read it because you can just publish it straight away. And Google's cracked down on that. So here we are. You're in this fence of SEO. What do you do? Are you going to go into the content side? Do you see that side dying as a career? Do you see that side being more so? And I'm generally asking this from a position of interest.
Yeah.
Because there are younger SEOs out there who perhaps aren't as high up in the career path, who are perhaps maybe content writers, call themselves SEO content writers, and there are perhaps people who are account managers and not sure, like, should I be producing the content now?
Yeah.
Is it my responsibility? So to bring all that into a succinct question, okay, how much around content marketing should SEOs be focusing now?
So yeah, I think don't be scared of the technology, but just remember about people first content, right? And I the thing it keeps coming back to me about generative AI is, what's the solution you're trying to solve from it? Are you just using it because everyone else is using it? If you don't have a need to use it, then don't, right? If you've got a need to publish lots of content en masse, tens of thousands of euros on a big, massive enterprise e-com site, AI's probably got a place, right? I as an ex-journalist who came into SEO from a content background, I've still not seen a piece of AI-generated content with all the best prompts and best AI PRM plugins and everything. I've still not seen a piece that I would personally use for a client because I've got quite a high standard for that content. Google's is probably a bit lower. But if you've got a need to use it, then fine. And there's a skill that's going to be developing now is, as an SEO, is how well you can use AI tools to create content, probably. But you then got to have an eye for content. So if you're coming to answer your question, coming into SEO from a content perspective, stick to your training as a content marketer, because that's still the best way to determine how good a piece of content is how good you think it is from a quality perspective, how good you think the user is going to be. Because for all the bashing Google's getting, they are still actually trying to reward people first content. They're trying to demote content that's been written for them for search engines, and then we're doing an awful job of that at the moment, don't get me wrong, but I do still think that's their end goal. So if you're coming into the industry from that perspective, I wouldn't let recent developments change your strategy and change your outlook. Create the best content for the end user, make sure it's SEO friendly, make sure it's SEO optimized, but don't be scared to use the tools either if there's a need. So obviously some content writers are going to come into working for a brochure site where content should be handwritten, and it should be very much, you shouldn't need AI for that. As I said before, if you've got a project where you need to create tons of content at scale, and you probably have to have a think of that, but it's got to have that human touch.
Okay, and that's interesting. That feeds into Josh. Okay, Josh, you're on these interviews, you said everyone's after holistic. What are people talking about AI in these interviews for SEO? What's the questions coming from the employers?
Well, I know one question that a lot of our employers ask us to ask during the interview process is, what's your take on AI and how much you're using it on your day-to-day? And what they're looking for is people that aren't scared of AI, people that talk about it positively and talk about the tasks that it helps them improve on. Yeah, that's kind of the biggest things we hear. Another thing is that it depends on what the role is, but we had recently where, and I said it at the JBH event, that certifications weren't a thing that we got asked at through our employers. But recently we had somebody that wanted SEOs who had certifications within AI. And were they training for AI? Were they training in different courses?
It's going to be a skill now, back in the day, content SEOs, on-page SEO, off-page SEO. AI is going to be a line in that skills list. I think the important thing is knowing when to use it and how to use it correctly. And as you said, I don't blame employees for that. But it's so early. What if you're going to start having certifications in using AI? I mean, who is the authority in that?
JP, let's talk about what are you doing with AI?
Oh, let's not talk about it. I was actually going to say, you just said that was a very valid point. I think you can always make great work on top of a good foundation, but you can't make great work without a foundation, right? So if you're coming in, I know it's confusing for people 1-2 years into the game, but if you're coming in, it is a confusing time, but your foundations need to be rock solid, right? But that's a tangent. I'm happy to talk about what I'm doing with AI.
It's interesting. So I'm just going to pin you down on the corner for a second. Not physically. Those days are past in my career. Past career, for anyone listening, it was my previous SEO career. Okay, so I think, and I'm going to be horrible to us all because I think we're giving vague answers in terms of because the future is vague. But right now, you're an SEO content writer. That's your job title. You pay, I don't know, £24,000 a year. You're an SEO copywriter, SEO content writer. What do? Do you jump ship? Should you now be looking for a new career?
No.
Why not?
I would seek to learn and understand how I can become AI assisted. So could I 2x, 3x my output as a copywriter? And I would seek to learn to understand how AI can make me better at my job and make me faster. So I've always been a fan of doing this by trying to optimize my own workflows. So in my current job, if I was a copywriter or a content creator or content writer, something like that, I would use the AI to basically shorten my work time by so much, because think about the most intensive, we're speaking about content writing and copywriting, right? So I would say
for SEO.
For SEO. So what takes a lot of time? More browsing the internet, researching things, putting facts together, creating themes, all that stuff. So, and I've done this, since ChatGPT came out. I just say, I know nothing about this topic. Imagine I have to create this. I want you to educate me on this as fast as possible. And it gives me the cliff notes. And then I would reiterate that process as much as possible.
Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. I'm still going to push even harder and put you down further. Okay, so because I'm not necessarily sure you're right about this, by the way. So if I'm an SEO copywriter now, so I understand content, I understand copywriting. I don't disagree, by the way, that you should leverage AI and become better. But I think perhaps there's room for these SEO content writers to move into SEO and to take the skills and to take that knowledge and to perhaps move right towards the how I would describe the more technical areas of SEO and that holistic management, or maybe move left and go into the more digital PR sectors, which we know is being busy. I'm concerned about SEO copywriters and content writers in terms of that becomes more of an operational skill, because you're managing robots from that point on. At that point, the jobs will start to reduce in that sector, because you can have multiple. Imagine the situation, and this is how I see it. And if you've used any of, I think it's Joshua's who's his Moonlit apps on AI, which are really good.
Right.
And what you do is you'll end up with loads of GPTs working all at the same time, and you'll give them all the brief, and you'll have all these AIs generating all these content for you, which you can then check, and you become the editor. So in that metric, in that world, I think the jobs reduce in volume anyway, because there's less content need. But what I don't think, and I think content marketing I personally think content marketing for fresh, original content that has nothing to do with SEO will skyrocket, because we'll need that intelligent thought that's investigated, and people can replace the media. We're seeing it now, the amount of newsletters that are quality, well written, coming out there. So I'm not like disagreeing with you to be awkward, but I'm sort of like challenging you on your advice. Do you think then perhaps potentially do you think it's worthwhile for the SEO content writers to take stock of where they're at now and look at what path they're on? Do they need to move left, right? Do they need to move off at an angle? Or do you honestly think staying in lane and just getting better AI is a protective mechanism for them? I'm throwing that out to everybody because I don't know.
That's a valid point, and I appreciate that you reframe that question. So, like, I agree with you. I mean, let's just take briefs, for example, now. You can do a lot of that work, 60-70% using AI, but there'll always be a human element. So, as you say, it's operational. So, like, you need to learn where to plug yourself into that. But as AI can learn to do more of that work, it's creativity and the human element and the quality assurance which becomes more valuable. But if your job was 100% doing content, and now AI can do 70 of that, and you're only spending 30% of your time, what do you do with the other 70%? And I agree with you. I think with that 70%, you need to move into skills that AI won't be able to do, because those is what's going to go up in value. People will always exploit the things that AI can do. Right now we're discovering it, but they'll build better ones. They'll build more creative ones. It's like the Willy Wonka story, right? It's like, are you going to be the person screwing the caps on the toothpaste tubes, or are you going to become the engineer that services the machines that screws those on? So you need to pull back the lens and go macro, which is difficult to do as like a junior SEO. But if you can see the bigger landscape and say, that's kind of taken care of, so focus on the thing that AI won't do. Yeah. And I know that's kind of non-specific, but...
No, I actually thought that was specific, by the way. Repeat that bit about the macro bit, because that's good. So go macro, is that what you said?
Yeah, so go macro, pull back the lens, and see what AI is doing and achieving right now and what it's going to get better at, and become better at the things that it can't do.
That's the Instagram video script.
That is it.
That's good.
That is it.
Okay, so let's pull this back, because we've gone a bit all over the show, which is good, because I think this is natural, and I think the audience is getting value from this. And we're going to go back on to Josh here, because I'm going to pick on Josh, and then I'm going to straight to Charlie with the same question, and straight to this same question for all three of you. Starting with Josh. What skills and experiences are you looking for in a candidate's CV when hiring? And this is the thing. So we talked about holistic. Putting on your CV saying I'm a holistic SEO, I'm sure will not jump it out at anyone. So what skills do they look for?
See, this isn't the answer that you want, right? So I'm going to give you my personal opinion is that CVs they're not important. Right? And if they are, what we're finding recently, and what JP had not that long ago, was he actually built a website based on his CV. This is ages ago. Yeah, don't worry to his current employer. So yeah, I think I don't think CVs are that important. I think it's on average CVs get viewed for six seconds. So you count that up in your head: 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, gone to 6 seconds. 80% of CVs don't get shortlisted. So if you want your CV to be getting shown, or if you want to be actually shown to employers, what you do is, not biased, but come to a specialized recruiter, or get somebody that's in your network who knows somebody at the company or is able to refer you, because that has 10 times strength in somebody's CV. So yeah, look, if you want to do your CV, I seen there was a recruitment company recently that put eye trackers on their whole team, and what they viewed on a CV was just an F format. So again, it's different for SEO, but in SEO, if you want your CV to stand out, put in SEMrush results, screenshots, put in href reports, put in actual screenshots of the actual work you've done. But realistically, yeah, I've said it a million times, I don't think CVs are that important. I think they're needed as a checklist item, but I think your LinkedIn profile is a lot more important, your side projects and who you know within the industry.
Yeah. Interesting. Same question.
Yeah, I'd echo that. I mean, obviously, I've been looking to work with people since, setting up my consultancy, and I know CVs I obviously do find quite bland, but the people that I've engaged with, the people that have reached out to me on LinkedIn and not just said, I do SEO, they've said, hey, Charlie, I saw you talk the other day, I did this cool thing, I'd be interested just to get your thoughts. And we start chatting, and then you get some chemistry going. That tells me more about them as a person, about their experience, about their attitude to SEO, about what, techniques for implementation and things than any CV. And LinkedIn's a great portal. I mean, I know a lot of people don't like it because it's so B2B and it can feel a bit corporate to people who haven't used it before. But it's obviously, we all know a lot. It's quite addictive, isn't it? But using that as a way to connect with fellow SEOs, be part of the conversation, have a beer, and then look, if you're looking for some opportunities, you can have a conversation. Say, oh, can I do a bit of freelancing for you? Or I'd love to work with you. And that, to me personally, is the best way to engage with me.
Go on, JP.
If my CV is the first touch point and I'm the last touch point, I think about all the touch points in between. And it's like an inverted funnel. It starts small and it goes big. I'm not saying like I have a big personality, but like the CV is a snapshot, right? It's like a one pager. And then it goes, right, so from my CV, then to my LinkedIn, and then to my website. I don't think a CV can offer a lot of value as much as my website could. So I want to prime people and tease them with the stuff on my CV, which then will follow them down the funnel to my LinkedIn and then to my website and then eventually to me when we jump on a call. Yeah. So that's why on my website, jpgarbaccio.com, check it out. That's the plug, by the way. I haven't really updated it as much as it would be, but that's coming. But everyone has experience. I want to see what projects you've done. I want to see what you worked on. I want to see what you're excited about. But one important thing that always stands out for me when I was looking for contractors is what have you done and what results did it get? Yeah. And showcase that in money, right? Because that's what a client cares about. So it's like, well, that's what my boss cares about and that's what the client cares about. So link your skill set to a monetary value and that should permeate in your communication.
And one more point before we move on from that is if I was looking at a CV, I'm looking at a CV in like for a red flag type of thing, not for green flags. So I'm looking, are you a job hopper? Or are you at a company that I know has a bad rep? That's probably the biggest thing.
That's interesting.
Big point.
So I'm just going to add a couple of things in there. So I get bombarded with people, messages in LinkedIn. I'm sure you all do as well. And you know what? I can say the standard of inboxing messages. So if anyone's watching this and they're just about to inbox somebody on LinkedIn, then I'll say this: the standard of your message that you send to people on LinkedIn is for most people is not even on the playing field of even speaking to people. What I want to see from LinkedIn from someone who messages me who's after a job is, hey Andy, I'd love to see. Hey, how are you? I'd love to talk to you about how I helped XYZ achieve XYZ. And here's the case study so you can look at it and read it. Can I jump on a call with you to discuss it because I'm looking for roles in the future? If you send me that and you've got a job now and you haven't even thought, you're thinking, okay, 12 months time I might be looking for a role, 6 months time I might be looking for a role, I'd be very interested in speaking to that individual for 15, 30 minutes because they've shown me they've achieved something. They're willing for me to discuss it so they can back it up. And even if they've not got a big written case study, but it's just a screenshot of how they did this and what they did and who the client was and how they worked, I'd love to. And, and it's just an invite. That's 1,000 times more powerful than me going up to somebody when there's a job available because you're ahead of the game. Now, even if I don't talk about this, now I won't name the young gentleman who's actually done something similar to me with this approach, but the fact that he did that meant that out of the thousands of messages I get and requests I get on LinkedIn, he stood out massively. Yeah. And then he met me physically and he did some other things and talked about his projects that he's running online and things like that. And when I look at that and I name that SEO, I know him, and even though we're not friends or anything like that, he has stood out of thousands of SEOs. Because like to say what Josh was talking about being a bit lazy, because he just went that little bit more than everyone else did. Yeah. And he's actually displaying his character traits in it without being competitive and without coming after me begging for a job. So when I think of roles, who am I likely to say, hey, would you like to apply for this, or will you consider putting your CV in our talent pipeline and things like that. That for me is the thing. So if people want to stand out, stand out.
There's another way to, and you have to be very careful with this so it doesn't come across arrogant or anything, but even I'd quite like it sometimes people will challenge me a little bit to be like, I saw you thought, oh, wait, maybe a different way of thinking about something, or even a different way to implement it. I've talked about implementation a lot because for me, SEO strategy techniques, it's bread and butter stuff. It's implementation, clever ways of getting stuff implemented on tricky systems or tricky clients. Anyway, I've had a few people reach out to me and be like, oh, I've done that, but I've done it in this way, which I think you might find is better. Now that is going to make me want to employ someone.
Yeah.
If they can diplomatically and politely challenge me. Now, but obviously you do need to find a line there because you don't want to go out and start slagging all the other SEOs off. But
Give
you know what I mean?
Professional feedback.
But yeah, and that would impress me probably far more than anything.
Well, the other thing is people need to understand, and this isn't quite common, but I think probably everybody in SEO needs to hire people who have got the skills that you haven't got.
Yeah.
The skills that are missing from your team. But I'm going to pivot a little bit because we are short on time now, and I want to try and get some other questions out. And JP, how important is LinkedIn when it comes to getting a job?
Now I think
Or your career?
Yeah, now I think even more important, right? We're living in a world now where it's like you're not just hiring someone for the job they can do and the skills they bring to the table. You're hiring them almost for their brand and their network, right?
That's interesting.
Yeah, I think so, definitely. And I think that people that don't get that, might have missed the cliff note somewhere, because I think that's huge. Yeah, it's huge.
Yeah, you want talent to be associated with your brand.
Yeah, but on LinkedIn, but it's difficult because not everyone has that personality. I know people that have tried to do it and they say, oh, I don't want to be on LinkedIn. It's not my personality. And I was one of those people, right? Josh's event, I learned some things and that gave me a paradigm shift. I enjoy it now. I've learned to like it a lot. I think it's huge. I think it's good to work on your own brand. And if you're not a big LinkedIn person, don't be. But find a way to inject your personality into a form of content and be proud about that.
And don't accept all invites. Because it's all about your network, isn't it, on LinkedIn? I refine mine quite a lot. When I first started on it, when I was younger, I was accepting everyone thinking, hey, I'm popular, aren't I? And then quickly realised, and I did a big call. But now I refine mine quite a lot so that any posts I see, I'm going to find interesting. And actually, when I'm posting, people are going to engage with me because they find, hopefully, what I'm saying interesting. So from a recruitment perspective, I'm a bit of a dinosaur. I didn't use LinkedIn for jobs. I used to send CVs, and it was a different time back then. But nowadays, I use LinkedIn as a recruitment tool. Do you know what I mean? And I think, especially depending on how you use it, it's a hugely powerful tool. And use it to show, to show off what you're doing. And the thought leadership you get from LinkedIn is, I think we've all agreed it's probably bigger than like Twitter or anything like that now for me learning on what other SEOs are up to and what people are doing.
Standard is declining in the last few months, I have to say.
Well, I've not been posting as much, have I?
Well, that's why I haven't posted. So you need to up your posting. Okay, so I'm going to throw this at Josh with a twist. Okay, young executives, and I say young executives, or actually middle-aged executives and older executives. The SEO industry is one of them where people fall into it at any part of their lives. But you're an executive at the youngest beginning part of your career. Should you be on LinkedIn? Is that really a good use of the time? Should they be? Why would they want to do it in their spare time?
So I think probably at the early stage of your career is probably the most important time to be on LinkedIn. The way I look at LinkedIn and the way that a lot of people talk to me about LinkedIn is that it's a course or it's information that you can get for free. But I think the biggest advantage to LinkedIn is chatting to people. Myself and JP have gone hiking with a load of SEOs recently where everybody's up a mountain talking about SEO and job market and this and that, all from just going to events and meeting on LinkedIn and then chatting that way. I was in 20 Stories recently with a wealth advisor from London who did an event up in Manchester. Only talked to all of them on LinkedIn. We're all talking about things. We're talking about things we want to do in the future. And I think as a young executive, I think it's different being on LinkedIn and learning from it and reading a lot of people's posts. I think it's then step 2 to start commenting and start building your network. And then step 3, I think you posting will teach you about copywriting. It'll teach you about what's actually out there, what's actually interesting. And I think it's one of the best ways to build your career. And then back to like the other question, I think client or company owners that don't want you posting on LinkedIn, which a lot of my friends within the industry will message me like, all right, I was at your event and I started posting on LinkedIn, but my boss took me to the side the other day and said I'm not allowed to be doing this.
Really? Is that
That's
all the time.
I wouldn't accept that.
If that was me, I would leave that company, right? But I think company owners need to understand, I think that what they've got in their head is that if you're posting on LinkedIn, you're trying to advertise yourself for the future, whether you're going to go freelance, whether you're going to go start your own agency down the line. But I don't think they're looking at the actual advantages of an ROI that you can get from people in your company posting about from a personal brand perspective, from a brand image perspective, or from bringing in leads. I think like we all know that I know people that are on LinkedIn that because they've got X amount of followers and get a lot of engagement, their salary could be 20k extra because of the amount of leads that they're able to bring in. So
And
I think
I think that's it. Is you can also bring leads into the company, right?
Yeah.
So
But they're worried that people are going to see the talent and they're going to get poached. One thing I would say about LinkedIn as well for young SEO is treat your LinkedIn page like you would treat an SEO page. Do you know what I mean? Because your LinkedIn is as good as your profile is, and there's loads you can do with it, from your URL that you have for your username to the profile. I mean, obviously, if you're a youngster, you're not going to have loads of job experience, but the bio, it's a search engine, right? And people are looking for stuff on LinkedIn using keywords. So, you know, some people might get put off it, but they perhaps maybe are not using it to the full of its potential.
My URL is Andrew Holland SEO.
Mine's SEO Consultant
yeah, I
Manchester.
saw that the other day. Actually,
That is so old school.
yeah.
Oh,
I'm not
okay, guys.
changing it now.
We've got 2 minutes on the countdown timer, and so very, very quickly. One is last tip, JP. How to future-proof your SEO career. What's your last tip for the audience?
Network, meet people, IRL,
that was going to be
in real life. Stay curious, stay hungry, stay human, and just be a good person. Yeah.
About 15 tips.
I was going to say that.
Sorry.
That was a listicle. Go on, Charlie.
Moving on.
I'd say embrace the tech, but don't let it own you. Own it.
Josh.
become friends with your network.
Okay.
I could go in so much more on that, but you just let me do a tip on that. And what I mean by that is just become friendly with your network, that you do things outside of work. I think SEO is a very lonely place for a lot of people. Yeah. And I think community is something that drives passion and it drives innovation. And I think that being able to do that and talk about it openly is going to get you more excited for your career and want to make you test new things. And yeah, make sure that you basically think that you're on the right path.
Okay. I don't know if I'll get a chance to squeeze this last one in, but I would say to anyone, my number one tip is prepare to step away from SEO. If you can't get the role that you want or a role that pays you the salary you have, you might have to step away. Even if that's temporarily,
I like that.
you can still be in SEO, but you might have to go and be humbled and do something else. And I think that's important because in economic challenging times and technically challenging times, we can't all have the roles we want. There just aren't enough roles. So sometimes you have to pivot.
I was going to say that with regard to content, the impact of AI on content isn't specific to SEO. You know, screenwriters, authors, anyone that writes has got this challenge. So it's going to be a challenge wherever you're doing your writing. So you may need to think about that. But, you know, I think you'll be fine.
That's powerful. That's powerful.
That's it. That's the end. Okay, so thank you very much, everybody, for those questions. And I think there's a lot in here, and I think people, if we probably get a transcript together or something that we can put as a download from this, and maybe even get that put into some points and some questions for people that might be useful. But thank you, JP. Thank you, Charlie. Thank you, Josh, for giving me your insights and giving everyone your insights. I think this has been a fantastic resource for people. I think this is going to help people to clarify their thoughts. And what I would say to people is, you know, don't necessarily just watch, you know, if you're seeing this, don't watch it once. I would say to you, save it and come back to this, because this is probably going to serve as a motivation for you and in some bad times in your career and some good times in your career, because there's a lot of knowledge in here that you can rewatch or reread and pick up over time. So I think this is one of the resources that people are going to find valuable for a long time to come. So thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks, guys.
Cheers, Andy.
Thanks.
Okay, so JP, tell people where they can find anything about you and where they can look for you in the future.
My name is JP Garbaccio. You can find me on LinkedIn. Very simple. Search me, JP Garbaccio, or on my website, jpgarbaccio.com. I'm usually posting things on LinkedIn. I'm going to be doing more technical insights, audits, consulting, and writing about really cool AI projects and stuff that I'm building in the future. So please go follow my blog. Exciting stuff coming.
Charlie?
Yeah, I'm Charlie Whitworth. You can find me on Ancoats, Whitworth SEO. We're based in Beehive Lofts, which used to be the Sankeys for anyone who was a face in Manchester back in the day. And yeah, do get in touch. We offer a range of SEO services and we're always looking for young talent. So if you are a bit of a crossroads and you want some advice, then yeah, and you can find me on Twitter quite a lot, Whitworth SEO.
Okay.
You can find me on LinkedIn, is probably where I'm most active, so just Josh Peacock. For the website, it's www.seoforhire.co. Myself and my team, Craig, everybody, we're always constantly posting about ways that you can get a job, look more attractive, and what's going on in the job market. So I hope to follow you there.
Okay, and if people are looking to follow myself, it's Andrew Holland. I'm on LinkedIn, Andrew Holland SEO. You can find me that way. And or you can subscribe to my newsletter on LinkedIn, Grow Through Content, which comes out every single Sunday, and you can join over 30,000 subscribers, and that is me bragging about that. So make sure you join, everybody, and it's a newsletter comes out every Sunday. And thank you very much.